Look at this. A researcher, this is question 10, a researcher is interested in the relationship between caffeine consumption and activity level for elementary kids. A sample of 20 kids is obtained, and the children are separated into two roughly equivalent groups. The children in one group are sent to Starbucks. No, just kidding. The children in one group are given a drink containing 300 milligrams of caffeine, and the other group gets a group with no caffeine. So what's the dependent variable right away? The dependent variable is caffeine. And what is the independent variable? The independent variable that I'm manipulating, or that I hope that the DV affects, I'm manipulating the DV. I'm sorry, the IV. The independent variable. Boy, I did this backwards, guys. I'm sorry. The independent variable is caffeine. It is the one that I am introducing. The independent variable, I apologize, is caffeine. The dependent variable is the amount, A-M-O-U-N-T, of activity, amount of activity that the kids experience after drinking this caffeinated drink. So what they're asking is this an experiment or a correlational study? It's an experiment. Why is it an experiment? Because I have a DV and I have an IV. The IV is caffeine. The dependent variable is the amount of activity, and I'm manipulating the amount of caffeine consumed by each kid. So, and what are some of the other things that I have to control for? I have to make sure that, for instance, the kid didn't eat 6 donuts loaded with sugar before taking part in my experiment, which would also obviously affect the amount of activity. So again, a manipulation and a control. Okay, now let's pop over to the next one down here. Okay, Chapter 1, question 18. This is the first time that we are actually using, taking a look at some numbers. And in this one, we're looking at some X values for some scores, whether they be a test or whatever they are. And the X values are 6, 1, 3, 4, and 2. All right? And question A is asking me to simply give us the sum of X. Okay, so if I add these babies up, 6 and 1 is 7, and 3 is 10, and 4 is 14, and 2 is 16. What do I get? I get 16. So the sum of X is 16. Okay, now it's telling me, please sum the square of the X's. So I simply take the X's before I add them up and square them. There's no parentheses here, so just remember the order of operations, and exponentiation comes first. Okay, it's right in the back of the textbook, order of operations. Take a look. So 6 times 6 is 36. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 2 times 2 is 4. And if I add those numbers up, what do I get? I get 66. So 66 right here. Now, before squaring, I add them up. Okay, so I get 16, which is the same as that, and I square 16. So 16 squared is 60 equals 16 times 16 equals 256. Got it? And the last one is asking me to simply deduct 1 from each of the X values and add them up. Okay, so don't forget these are the parens, and we're doing those first. So we simply take, I'm going to go over here, I have a little more room. We simply take 6 minus 1, and 1 minus 1, 3 minus 1, 4 minus 1, and 2 minus 1. And what do I get? I get 5, 0, 2, 3, 1. I add them up, and I come up with a grand total, or a summation. Don't forget that sigma equals 11. Okay, let's pop over to the next one down here. Let me see if I could find that little arrow. And that's 20. And interestingly, this is very much the same, except that it's going to use some negative numbers. So the first question is, give me, don't forget our x values here are 5, minus 1, 0, minus 3, and minus 1. Okay, so the first thing that it's asking me is just to add them up. So 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 minus 0, or 4 plus 0 is still 4. Minus 3 is 1. Minus 1 is 0. So that's what I get, a big fat goose egg for the sum, sum or sigma x. Okay, it's 0. The second one, don't forget, is I do exponentiation first. So I simply go 5 times 5 is 25. 0 times 0 is 0. I'm sorry, minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 times plus 1 equals 1, and minus 3 times minus 3. I'm having a little trouble with this pen. Equals 9, and minus 1 times minus 1 equals 1. So if I add those up, I get 36, which is the answer to the second question. And the next one simply tells me that I have to add 3 to each one before summing them. So if I'll go over here where I have a little room. 5 plus 3 equals 8. Minus 1 plus 3 equals 2. 0 plus 3 equals 3. Minus 3 plus 3 equals 0. They cancel each other out. Minus 1 plus 3 equals 2. I add those together, and I come up with a grand total of 15, which is the answer to C. Okay, I hope that that helps you out, and we will pop over in the next video to Chapter 2. And thank you very much. If you have questions, please email me or post them up on the board.